All right, welcome everybody. I'm Ed Cruz. This is the last lesson. This is episode 57, and this is called The Truth of Change. I think I've talked about this topic a little bit before, but I just had a last minute Zoom class maybe about an hour ago, and I wanted to reiterate something I've talked about before. As far as there's this, I don't know if it's wives' tale, old myth, truth, or what say you, and it's basically saying that you want to make sure when you learn something, you learn it right. Otherwise, if you learn it wrong, right, it'll take you that much longer to undo what you've done so you can have the right mechanics or something like that. The truth of the matter is, and I believe I have clarified this before, that let's say you learn something, okay? Let's say you learn a punch. And at that time, at that particular time, you're doing the punch, and let's say your punch looks like this. Now, I don't believe, for the most part, I don't think people are intentionally trying to learn it wrong. It's kind of like you have levels as far as what you're learning, and it's kind of like a little kid, you can teach them how to do a certain thing, but you take it to a different level or raise it up to like a grade school or high school level or a college level. They won't be able to do that, but their effort and their actions doesn't mean that they're trying to learn it wrong. So at that particular time, at that particular moment, when you're learning something, that right that you're doing is actually, you may look back at it and say, shit, I can't believe I'm doing it wrong. That wrong is actually a right, because that's what your skill level is. That's what your understanding is. That's what your physical ability is. And so at that point, you may look back at it as like, oh man, I look horrible back then. But it's not that you were trying to do it wrong. It's just what you are able and capable of doing it. So that fear then that comes into play that says, okay, if I don't get this right, it's going to take me such and such an amount of time to undo this damage as far as how I learned it improperly. That's not the case. That's not the case. But in reality, human nature is if you think about it, if you look at things in general, it's slow to adapt. It's slow for change. Even if you know it's wrong and the right you can understand and simplify, you'll stick to the wrong for a longer time because it's comforting. Even though you know everything's wrong about it. I mean, this day and age, if you look about it, excuse me, if you think about it, everyone uses the internet, right? The global world is connected through a cell phone in some form or matter, and everyone uses the internet. But if you backtrack maybe 20 years ago, the adaptation of the internet was not like instant. You can go on YouTube and check it out, where people were like, nah, it's just a fad. People weren't going online. I think there's a famous video from David Letterman interviewing Bill Gates in the early 90s. And he was just mocking something like, okay, so you can watch the TV on a computer. And then he's like, okay, that's why we have a VCR, or that's why we have a radio and stuff like that. So it's, right now it'd be like, if you think about it, it's like, oh man, that's crazy. That's crazy. Everyone jumped on the internet right away. That was not right. That was not the case, because the adaptation was actually not as quick. It was one of the quickest things that did happen, but not as quick as we tend to think and believe it to be. Okay, so with that being said, being able to correct your emotions is simply two steps. First, to correct it, you need to get the awareness. People think that, I have to practice a certain thing, or unlearn what I have to learn. No, you need the awareness. It's kind of like, I don't know if this is hot. I don't know if this is hot. Once you are aware or develop the skill and have that awareness of it and touch it, it's like, oh, this is hot, right? You can instantly change that right away. Okay, if you're thinking like a certain motion, why am I doing this certain motion wrong right now? You don't have the awareness. And that awareness is based on practice and training to understand that, as far as, okay, what am I looking for to actually get to that? So it's not you actually struggling to deal with that or change it. It's just you don't have the awareness to, you gotta remember, you gotta train to get that skill. And then when you have that, you can train the trust, and then that awareness comes about. Once you have the awareness, okay, then you can make that change. If the change doesn't come about, there's only one other reason why that occurs. That's pure ego. That's pure ego. And the ego is what's preventing you from actually, once you actually have the awareness, from making that change. You remember human nature, like I said before. Why do we see so often, a guy or a girl, they have a bad boyfriend or a bad girlfriend, and you're like, man, you should really dump that dude, or you should get rid of that bitch, or whatever. And they refuse to, because there's that fear, even though this is like the most awful person ever, there's that fear of the unknown, the change in itself. So that applies to not only in relationships, or maybe in jobs where people stay in something that you don't like for a long time, because it's comforting, even though it's not the best thing for them. So just remember that at the end of the day, that change can be instantly done. You just have to develop it. You have to have the awareness as far as trying to figure out, what do I use to control this and that, and then you can make that change right away. If you can't make that change after you have the awareness, that's pure ego on your part. So you have to deal with your own mental aspect as far as, okay, well, why exactly am I clinging on to this bitch? All right, in so many senses, you understand what I'm saying. So just remember that is actually something that you have to overcome, and with more training and understanding and fact checking with your own ego itself, you'll be able to deal with it.